Do you need a little more adventure in your life? Of course you do, we all do. But figuring out the best way to experience new places can be pretty difficult on your own. And you probably don't have time to make that happen anyway. That's why I trust Travel with Nikki when my wife and I are looking for new places to explore. Whether your ideal adventure includes hiking through jungles and tubing through caves, two things we actually did on one of our last trips, or if the adventure you're thinking of includes a little more rest and relaxation, maybe in a tropical paradise, Nikki can help you find it. My wife and I have worked with Nikki many times, and she has always been able to craft the perfect trip for us and whoever else is traveling with us. On a recent family cruise, she was able to find us some great excursions that were accessible to all of us, even those with mobility issues. And these were way better than anything offered by the cruise line. Nikki really got to know what my wife and I are looking for on our vacations, and that's what makes our trips so memorable. They're exactly what we're looking for. Nikki specializes in theme parks, all-inclusives, Hawaii and island explorations, but she can help get you organized for whatever type of travel you want. If adventure is calling your name, you can contact her through email. Her address is nikki@travelwithnikki.com, and Nikki is Nikki. You can also head to her website, travelwithnikki.com, to see how she can design a stress-free vacation for you. When you do, make sure to tell her who sent you. And now, on with the show. I've got a little bit of Greek mythology mixed with some ancient history for you today. As always, though, I will do my best to make these lessons as applicable to your life as possible. This is Lessons We Forgot, and this episode is called The Gordian Knot. According to legend, Gordius, a peasant who would later become the king of Phrygia, decided to honor Zeus in a really unique way. He thought that the king of the gods, wielder of lightning itself, would be really impressed by an overly complicated knot. So the newly crowned King Gordius went about tying a knot so complicated and intricate that it appeared to have no end. We can't be too sure what Zeus thought about this whole thing, but Gordius was pretty pleased with himself, and so he left the offering tied to a post in the city he named after himself. It was so impressive that local people and folks from surrounding areas would come to see what the king had done. An oracle even declared that whoever could untie the knot, solving the world's most unsolvable puzzle, would surely become the king of all of Asia. This had to have been tempting for anyone at least remotely ambitious, but try as they may, for centuries the knot remained tied as tight as it had been when Gordius left it there so many years before. That all changed when Alexander the Great, on his campaign to make the entire Persian Empire, including Phrygia his own, came upon the knot. Alexander knew the legend well, but he had one thing on his side that other challengers did not. He had been trained by the celebrated Greek philosopher Aristotle, so Alexander knew the value of logic and reason. More importantly, he knew that the best answers to any puzzle are not always the straightforward ones. What Alexander did next is either a stroke of genius or an all-time great example of cheating. He took out his sword and sliced the knot in half, once and for all untying it. If you know your ancient history, you know that Alexander went on to conquer the largest empire in the world at the time. And while he fell short of conquering all of Asia, it was pretty close to the whole world according to what the ancient Greeks knew. So for them, the prophecy had come true. What can we learn from Alexander's experience with the Gordian knot? A positive spin on the legend would tell us to look for creative solutions to whatever problems we have in front of us, no matter how complicated they may seem. We need to think outside the box, move beyond just logic and reason. Like Alexander, we need to take decisive action. With a stroke of brilliance, we can handle any problem we face. And we might have had experiences like this at school. Remember that time you kicked that really disruptive kid out of class? I bet he didn't expect that. Problem solved. Or that time you told a parent exactly what you thought of their kid? I bet you left them speechless. No more complaints from them. Or when the district tried to get you to change the way you teach in your class? You shut the door and continued to do what you do. And before long, they moved on to the next initiative and no one even knew. In each instance, with a stroke of brilliance, you took decisive action, solved the problem, and went on to conquer bigger and better things. If we look at the story of the Gordian knot with a more critical eye, we see that Alexander's success was fleeting. After conquering every inch of ground his feet touched, and after winning literally every battle he ever fought, Alexander would die a relatively young man. He never stepped foot in Greece again, dying of what most historians believe was malaria that he contracted somewhere in western India. In the blink of an eye, his vast empire was split up into rival kingdoms ruled by his many generals. Alexander had no heir because he stubbornly refused to name one. When asked about succession near the end of his life, Alexander, barely able to speak, whispered that his kingdom should be passed down to the strongest. After his death, his generals quickly became rival kings. Those who used to fight side by side under his command were now at each other's throats. And while we still remember Alexander, most of us can't help but ask ourselves, what could have been every time we think of him? Cutting corners might get you short-term victories, but not the lasting success you're looking for. The temporary relief you get when a challenging student is forced to leave your room can backfire when you try to develop a relationship with that same student later on. And that might be the relationship you're going to need to get you through the rest of the year. Taking a cheap shot at a parent who is struggling with the same person you are might lose you an important ally in the battle to manage your classroom. And we all know that parents can often be that extra bit of leverage we need to finally get a positive change with a difficult student. Turning your back on your colleagues to save your own individuality when you're teaching in the classroom might leave you fending for yourself later on when even bigger changes happen further down the line. And we all know bigger changes are always right around the corner. Alexander accomplished all of his goals as a conqueror, but he didn't make it past his first military campaign. Sure, you can probably stand victoriously over all of your perceived enemies anytime you want. You are smart, cunning, and if you're bold enough, you can win every battle in front of you. If your only goal is to conquer, you can accomplish all of your goals pretty quickly. But if you do that, your only legacy will be a string of bloody battlefields and the people left behind to put the pieces back together when you're gone. This school year will not be your only campaign. Your legacy will be one that brings people together, that builds a community, not one that tears it apart. When you set out to achieve your long-term goals and not just quick fixes, you'll avoid taking the easy way out. Many of our problems seem unsolvable. They might even seem like they have no beginning or no end. But you don't want to have to wonder what could have been at the end of this or any other school year. No, you are willing to put in the time and the energy to actually untie the knot that's in front of you. Resist the urge to handle it in one shot. There are no easy solutions out there. Strive for lasting victories and ones that you want attached to your legacy. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Lessons We Forgot. I'm the host, Chris Winkle. You can contact me at lessonsweforgot@gmail.com, and you can follow the show or message Lessons We Forgot on Facebook. Either way, I'd love to hear from you and welcome you to our community. If you really enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend. That is the best way to help grow the podcast. If you want to hear more Lessons We Forgot, I post new episodes on Sunday nights. Make sure you subscribe to follow the show on whatever podcast platform you use. And when you rate the show, like an episode, or leave a comment, we can reach even more listeners. If you hate ads just like me, I do have a Patreon site, patreon.com/lessonsweforgot, and for only $1 a month, you can get the show without ads. You can try that out right now for free to see if it's something you'd be interested in. Thanks again for your support.